Well, hi there. This is Alex with PNW Bible Journaling here on the Creative Retreat YouTube channel, diving in again to Way in the Wilderness by Jessica Drews. And this kit I have found to be super inspiring to try some things I haven't pulled out in a while. And I think it's the softness of the color scheme, kind of juxtaposed against the sketchy black lines, but I find myself drawn to softer mediums. So here I'm going to be in the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, verses 6 through 13, and I'm exploring the idea of the new covenant and what it is. And so knowing that from my first entry that we need to not look at the things of old and instead look at the things that are coming, I wanted to learn more about the new covenant. And so I love the book of Hebrews, and this particular passage is called a superior covenant in my CSB Bible. And I wanted to use watercolors. Again, this let me use the mediums and the supplies I had on hand to replicate the color scheme without needing anything more than the kit and what I already owned. I also was really drawn to that softness. On the faith-filled printables, I'll show it to you later, one of the things that you are provided is this beautiful sunset kind of patterned paper. And my printer isn't working very well, and so the sunset did not come out in the way that it was initially designed, but it did inspire me. And so I said, what if I created kind of the effect of the sunset in the pages of my Bible using the colors that I have? And so I was trying to get kind of the purple, the light blue, the golden color, and have it give that sunset effect. And so that's what I'm working towards here. I'm just using some Illustrated Faith watercolors that I happen to have. I think you could really use anything. I could have used my kiddos' watercolors because it's just a lot of blending and layering to get those colors. I will say watercolors don't tend to be quite as forgiving as, like, say, gelatos that I worked with earlier this month. So once the color is down, it's a little harder to take back what you've done. So if watercolors make you nervous, a sunset is a really fun way to experiment and try. And then I dipped and got a lot of paint on my page and just did some splatters of the same color combinations that I had done, but of course they are bolder colors when you just splat them on the page. Because the sunset itself is still a little wet, some of them blurred a little, which I actually like, and then the parts that landed on dry paper were more stark. I did have to let this dry slightly before I could do any stamping because ink will bleed. And then I had to let it dry fully before I added my journaling later. So here I'm there's this little flower blossom. It comes in a large print and a smaller print. I start off with putting 4 or 5 around the page of the larger blossom, and then I switch over to the small, and I just use it right next to the large ones that I already done to kind of add some more interest to the page. The splatters and this blossom kind of reflect each other in style, and so I liked how that wasn't so starkly different because I had the splatters and then these blossoms, but the black ink on the sunset is kind of bold. And so I like that that the way that this kit was designed that way, with these black hand-drawn blossoms coupled with the kind of soft pastel colors and the sunset and that kind of thing. So here I'm just outlining scriptures. I drew a few arrows to draw my attention to some things. Blocking it in. Again, the sketchy nature of the black pen kind of pulls out that part of this kit. And then I'm going to create a couple of clusters around the page. One that I layer the stickers together. Again, reflecting what I learned in this passage. I chose the words forever free. And on that little banner, and then I layered it over a purple blossom, kind of a violet color, a color that I wasn't as able to achieve exactly in the sunset. And then I used a couple of hearts. I created this kind of cluster, and that let me move it around the page. At first I thought I was going to put it right in the middle, and I tested it out there without sealing it down, and then I later actually moved that cluster to the top. I also really liked the phrase new covenant and then a new way. And so I wanted to include those two phrases together. Using the cursive at the top, just saying new covenant, continues that sort of ombre effect because I didn't want it to go straight from white to yellow. So by putting the word along the top of where the yellow starts, it kind of blends the yellow into the page a bit more. So the ombre, it sort of blends better. Hard to explain, but you kind of get the effect visually. And then I chose to use a single A from a past WordFetti or letter alpha sheet, and then new using the purple violet alphas that were in the kit, and way is a WordFetti included in this kit. So I really do try to do as much as I can with the actual kit itself before I go to other things, so you can see what you can make with just what is provided or what you might have on hand. So now the phrase says, New Covenant, a New Way. And I put that cluster that I initially made, Forever Free, up at the top of the page, right near some of those black stamps. And then I put a white circle sticker. You can't see it in this view. You'll see it in a minute. That says Made New at the bottom. This is that sunset paper, pattern paper that I said inspired this. But again, you can see if you glance at the Faith-Filled Digitals, which the links for everything I use, including this month's Faith Art Box and the Faith-Filled Digitals, are in the description below. If you jump over and look at it, my print did not work well, but I still found a way to use it. And so I tab punched it. And again, it's what inspired this page. So even if your printer's not working, you can use what comes out and be inspired by it. So I tape that at the top. I add this Made New sticker at the bottom. And then I decided that it was missing something. I jumped in and grabbed the acrylic stamps. It has these really great kind of wheat looking blossoms, which is cool because of the idea of wilderness. And it's actually one of the images on the devotional on the front. So I used the same stamp in full first next to that circular sticker. And then I kind of did a partial hanging off, the bottom part hung off the page to create sort of a wheat cluster here at the bottom. You'll see it in a minute better. And then I did have to let this dry fully. In order to write on the page, it's got to be dry. So that kind of concluded the actual creating part. And I knew I wanted to add just a few thoughts. Again, the idea, it ends this passage with by saying a new covenant he has declared that the first is obsolete, and what is obsolete and growing old is about to pass away. And the idea that we are forever free in Jesus in this new covenant, and it is a new way of living. So my prayer just says this: Lord, I am so grateful that through you I am made new. You are my way in the wilderness, and I will follow you, and you alone, really is what I mean by that. In a time when we can feel spiritually in a wilderness, we can feel physically isolated and in a wilderness. There's so much going on in the world. I just think that this was a beautiful reminder that He is with us and He is the way. One thing I was so excited about it, you might have noticed it there at the end. I love the little pin that was included in the kit this time. I tacked it onto my gelato holder there so I can collect them. It's such a fun reminder of what we learned. And as we mark what God teaches us in Scripture with our entries, I hope you too are building altars to what God is teaching you. If you are looking for any of the supplies or printables or the kit itself, you can visit the description below, as well as follow along with other design team members as they make their way through Way in the Wilderness, the September Faith Art Box. Thanks for tuning in.